and the county governments on imposition of tax. And on one hand, Honorable Speaker, members are aware that the taxes like the income tax, VAT, customs duties, and other duties on import and export of goods like even the miscellaneous levies and taxes that we impose here through the finance bills of the House, these fall under the ambit of the national government, and that is why we legislate on the finance bill and other tax laws that impose taxation on Kenyans and other people who may be doing business or working in the country. The same article, Honorable Speaker, goes further to define the role of our county governments in terms of the kind of taxes that they may impose, such as property taxes, entertainment taxes, and other taxes that may be authorized to be imposed by county governments through an act of parliament. And these taxes, as imposed by the county government, must be done in a way that they do not jeopardize the national interest of a country. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, if you read Article 209(5) of our Constitution, it introduced that very important safeguard in light of taxation imposed by both levels of government, and answers a number of questions in relation to the imposition of taxes between the two levels of government. And some of the questions that Article 209, Sub-Article 5 answers are, one, could there be instances where, for instance, there might be a clash between or a disruption in the opposition of taxes between the two levels of government? And it is true that there could be instances where there is a clash on the imposition of taxes by the two levels of government. Two, how then do we secure our national interests so that a county does not jeopardize the entire country's greater interests in an attempt or in the endeavor to impose tax at the county level? Three, Honorable Speaker, the same article answers the question on how do we secure movement of goods, services, capital, labor within and across the counties within the sphere of the national space for trade without inhibiting international protocols and agreements intended to ease regional trade. And for instance, Honorable Speaker, this afternoon we are discussing the issue of enhancing, deepening, and tightening our regional integration. And part of the work in deepening and tightening our regional integration is issues around trade. And it could be possible, Honorable Speaker, that, for instance, the county government of Kajiado, that neighbors our neighboring country of Tanzania, or maybe the county government of Busia, imposes certain taxes that may inhibit either the movement of goods and services from a neighboring country within our regional bloc, trading bloc, or even inhibit trade. For instance, the city of Nairobi, the county government of Nairobi may impose taxes that inhibit the movement of goods or even labor and services between a county like Mombasa and a county as productive as the county of Nandi. The people of Nandi are growing their tea, both small-scale and large-scale farmers, but they cannot consume all that tea. They have to transport that tea through the counties of Nakuru, Uasin Gishu, Kiambu, Machakos, Makueni, Taita Taveta, before it gets to Mombasa for shipment, for them to get value, real value out of their tea. And all these county governments in between may impose certain taxes that may inhibit not just the movement of those goods and services, but also international or regional trade, Honorable Speaker. And that is what we are seeking to cure with this bill, Honorable Speaker. And indeed, if you read Article 205, Sub-Article 9, that article that I have drawn reference to, it says that the taxation and other revenue-raising powers of a county shall not, and the word is shall, not may, mandatory shall not be exercised in a way that prejudices national economic policies, economic activities across county boundaries, or the national mobility of goods, services, capital, or labor. And that is what, Honorable Speaker, I've just paraphrased in saying it is both national, regional, and even international mobility of both goods, services, capital, or even labor. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is in this background that this bill gives effect to the constitutional requirement of Article 209(5) of our Constitution by defining the manner in which the national government...
Leader, for just the records, that is Article 209.
Yes, 209 sub Article 5. Sorry, I'm
very well
confusing 209(5) with 205(9). 209(5). And I was saying, Honorable Speaker, by defining the manner in which the national government, through the National Treasury, may exercise its policy oversight role. The bill further establishes a process whereby the county governments may exercise their taxation authority. Honorable Speaker, in the national government or through the National Treasury, exercising its policy oversight role is basically bringing into effect or giving life to the provisions of that article of our Constitution, that the National Treasury has a duty and a mandate to ensure that not a single county government in the imposition of either a tax, a levy, or even miscellaneous fees will be imposed in a way that it jeopardizes the greater national economic policies, because the National Treasury has that overarching view, or the bird's eye view of the country across all the 47 counties. And therefore, they have a supervisory or rather a regulatory role and a policy oversight role, which is what we are giving life to through this bill. Honorable Speaker, the bill further regulates the exercise by county governments of their power to impose taxes, levies, and duties by providing for the compliance by a proposed county government tax, fee, levy, or indeed even charges, as I said, miscellaneous charges, with the Constitution and the provisions of this bill, and to ensure that the county government proposals are dealt with in accordance with Article 6(2) of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, it's also important for this House, or rather to inform the House, that the bill does not set specific taxes that a county government may enact. As I have already pointed out, Article 209 of the Constitution is clear in terms of what taxes a county government may impose and what taxes the national government may impose. And therefore, this bill is not in any way trying to set the specific taxes that may be imposed by the county governments. And I think that is important, because I had heard when this bill was read for first time, and as a committee went for public participation, there were concerns that were raised that maybe the national government intends to impose certain levels of taxes that will be set by our county governments. That is already provided for in the Constitution. As I said in my opening remarks, Honorable Speaker, you know there is no county government that can impose VAT or income tax on anybody, but they can impose property taxes, Honorable Speaker, and that is already provided for in the Constitution, and we are not seeking to do that in this bill. Therefore, the bill is primarily concerned with regulating the process by which county government taxes will be imposed or can be imposed. Just the process, so that in exercising that oversight role, Honorable Speaker, that I mentioned, county governments also do not jeopardize our national interests, or indeed those other regional interests, because we are in the era of integration and regional integration, and it is possible, as I was using the case examples of the counties that border our regional neighbors, they may impose charges. For instance, as I said, people in Loitoktok who are importing tomatoes or onions from Tanzania, the county government of Kajiado, for instance, and I'm only using Kajiado as an example, may impose charges on onions or tomatoes coming from our neighboring country, and jeopardize that greater interest in having regional integration, because there's a lot of mobility of both labor, capital, and goods also from this country to our neighboring countries, and we therefore must be able to safeguard all that. Honorable Speaker, if you look at Clause 2 of the bill, it provides for the definition of words that are used or expressions used in the bill in technical sense, and therefore members need not get confused as to the provisions of certain definitions as are used in the bill. Honorable Speaker, if you look at Clause 5 of the bill, it contains also provisions relating to waivers and variations. It states that a tax or a licensing fee, including a fine, a penalty, may not be varied except by legislation. It contains important checks and safeguards for waivers or variations of any tax or licensing fees such as indicating reasons or policy objectives for the variation of waiver, the impact of the variation or waiver on revenue collection, and the likely economic impact of the variation or waiver. Honorable Speaker, you know, in the old constitution, or under the old constitution before 2010, the cabinet secretary in charge of the National Treasury could even waive taxes or levies or licensing fees. But under the new constitution, even the cabinet secretary lost that power. Indeed, it is only this house that has powers to waive or even impose taxes. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, Clause 5 of this bill has those provisions that relate to waivers and variations. Again, to guard against abuse of processes, Honorable Speaker, because you may find chief officers, chief finance officers, county executive committee members, or even people in our National Treasury varying and waiving fees and penalties and interest, Honorable Speaker. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, you find in one of the bills, without anticipating debate, Honorable Speaker, the tax procedures bill that is currently undergoing public participation after being read for a first time last week has a particular provision dealing with tax amnesty. Because, as I said, it is only through Parliament that you can even waive penalties or even interest on tax arrears owed to KRA or to other government agencies by members of the public. And indeed, I look forward, Honorable Speaker, to the second reading of that tax procedures bill when it comes up for debate. Because I know there are many, many Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, especially members of the public who did business with many of our county governments across the country, who are owed hundreds, in fact not hundreds, billions, tens of billions of shillings owed to business people across the country who cannot be paid, but KRA is on their necks, demanding taxes, imposing penalties and interest on what they are owed simply because they invoiced. And when they invoiced, they were supposed to pay taxes against those invoices, but those invoices are yet to be settled by government agencies or even the county governments, and therefore KRA continues to impose penalties over penalties, and it is those people, Honorable Speaker, that we seek to help through, as I said, Honorable Speaker, some of the provisions in the tax procedures and tax laws that will be coming before this House, as I said, without anticipating debate. Honorable Speaker, just trying to move quickly, Honorable Speaker, Clause 8 of the bill contains a very critical provisions also for establishment and composition of the Interagency Transitional Committee by the Cabinet Secretary for the purpose of reviewing all fees and charges imposed by the county governments prior to the commencement of the Act. The bill proposes a 5-member committee consisting of representatives from the National Treasury, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, the Kenya Revenue Authority. The committee's role shall be to review the taxes, charges, and fees imposed by a concerned county. Again, Honorable Speaker, appreciating that Parliament may have delayed in enacting such legislation that would create this process that we are seeking to create in regulating how we impose taxes at both levels of government. It may happen, Honorable Speaker, as I was giving examples, that already there are county governments across the country that may have imposed certain levies, fees, taxes that may jeopardize our national interests. And therefore, to cure that, Honorable Speaker, for those that may have been imposed ahead of the enactment of this bill, we are saying that we will create an interagency transitional committee that will be appointed by the Cabinet Secretary, and we have representation from the agencies and institutions that I have mentioned, including the Intergovernmental Technical Relations Committee, to be able to review all those that had been done before to make sure that they align with the greater national goals and interests. Honorable Speaker, in summary, let me not belabor this point because this is a very self-explanatory bill. In summary, this bill is very important, and I want to urge all members to support it. I know it's a bill that concerns our county governments, and therefore it will be going to the other house. And I do expect that in the greater interest of both our counties and our national government that even when this bill finds its way to the other house, they will be able to pass it so that we create that complementary role of the two levels of government, not only to impose taxes, but also to ensure that the taxes that are imposed at the national government level are not duplicated at the local level through imposition of taxes, levies, and fees by our county governments. Equally, Honorable Speaker, that if there are certain fees, levies, licenses that are being imposed at the local level, at the county level by our county governments, they are not duplicated when we pass our tax laws and our finance laws so that we avoid the elements of double taxation. Honorable Speaker, as I said, in conclusion, this bill gives effect to Article 209(5) of our Constitution to ensure that the taxation and other revenue powers of a county shall not be exercised in a way that prejudices national economic policies, the economic activities across our regions, in the country and across our boundaries outside the country in our region, does not in any way inhibit the national mobility of goods, services, capital, or even labor. Honorable Speaker, it is possible for counties to impose fees that may limit how even people move. And you may find in some counties you lack laborers who may do certain chores, Honorable Speaker, that probably because of cultural reasons, people from one county are not able to do, but they may be able to, through labor mobility, to move people from other counties. But you may find counties imposing restrictions on how even people move. Therefore, we want to ensure that there is national mobility of labor, capital, because for all our counties to be able to prosper and grow, there must be mobility of capital, there must be mobility of goods and services, and also labor, Honorable Speaker. And that is why those of us who never believed in the politics of dividing our country, be it along regional, ethnic, or even our county boundaries, Honorable Speaker, because we believe that the people, for instance, of Kilifi, need the people of Kericho to feed them. The people of Kericho need the people of Kilifi probably to move their capital from the coast to go and invest in Kericho and grow food that can get back to feed their own people in Kilifi. And it is these issues that we are speaking to in this bill, Honorable Speaker, that we grow our country by allowing free mobility of both goods and services, capital and labor. That Kenyans from across all the corners of our country feel free to go and invest anywhere. Honorable Speaker, my last visit to Honorable Bensouda's county in Homa Bay, I was impressed by the beautiful beaches along the shores of Lake Victoria. And I was impressed that the people of Homa Bay are very aggressive in fishing. But I noticed there is a deficiency in tourist resorts along the beaches of Lake Victoria. And I imagined if these were the days when I had some money, I would have been a very good close friend of Honorable Bensouda to make sure she's able to give me part of her assets near the lake to invest in tourist class holiday resorts. Honorable Speaker, you know, I know I'm using the Honorable Bensouda because I know how passionate she is in attracting capital to Homa Bay County to be able to provide employment opportunities for her young men and women in Homa Bay. And I had an evening with the Honorable Bensouda and Governor Gladys Wanga after the investment conference in Homa Bay County. And these two gracious and great ladies from Homa Bay County, these gracious ladies, Honorable Speaker, in Homa Bay County are doing great things. Governor Gladys Wanga, besides growing her own source revenue, And probably many governors should first pass through the National Assembly and hopefully be able to chair the Finance and Planning Committee, like Governor Wanga. Governor Wanga is a former chair of the Finance and Planning Committee and also a former women rep in Homa Bay County. But because of her experience in the National Assembly, especially as chair of the Finance and Planning Committee, she has been able to move her own source revenue by leaps and bounds in a period of less than 2 years, Honorable Speaker. And I must take this opportunity to commend Governor Wanga, because she's not only raising own source revenue in a way that jeopardizes our national interest, she is raising her own source revenue in a way that promotes national interest, encourages labor mobility, encourages capital mobility out of other places into Homa Bay County. And I thank God that she has the support of very great and gracious members of parliament from Homa Bay County, because I was also impressed that the leaders in Homa Bay County, and I'm using Homa Bay County because it touched my heart and my being when I saw the kind of cooperation that they exhibited during the Homa Bay Investors Conference that we all attended and was televised across the country, for other governors to see and learn that when you work with members of parliament, when you work with your women rep, when you work with your MCAs, it is only for the benefit of the people who voted for you as a governor. And I want to encourage all governors to work with their members of parliament. I know there are those who are interested in running for county government seats. Honorable Speaker, myself, I have said I will never want to run for any county government seat. Therefore, my governor can rest assured that I will never run. But please, don't fear. I know our governor fears the member for Thika, because she portends the potential to be another Gladys Wanga in Kiambu. But I have also said, without lying, Honorable Speaker, that I believe in the power of women leaders. Because our women leaders, Honorable Speaker, are doing great things as governors. Not just Governor Wanga. If you look at my party chair, Governor Cecily Mbarire, she is doing great things in Embu, even with sabotage from a few of us, or one or two of us. It may not be everybody, Honorable Speaker, and we don't have that latitude. I'm not here on a praise and worship session for governors. But I want to encourage them, let them work with other leaders, with their county assembly members, even as we actualize the provisions of this bill, Honorable Speaker, the county government revenue raising process bill, that they may use it to encourage not just the cooperation of other leaders, but the cooperation of their neighboring counties and other counties. I look forward to the day, Honorable Speaker, in this country, the governor of Wajir, the governor of Marsabit will be working with the governor of Kiambu, the governor for Nyeri, the governor for Kericho, to make sure that those things that are not available in their counties, they are able to exchange, and there is that free mobility of labor, of capital, so that even those of us who come from crowded counties like Kiambu and Kisii, and Nyamira, for instance, where Honorable Irene Mayaka comes from, that the people of Nyamira, the people of Kiambu will feel free to go and invest in Marsabit, to go and invest in Turkana County or Wajir. And indeed, the people of Wajir, and I must commend our brothers and sisters from the far north, they're investing all over across the country. That is the kind of country we all yearn for. And I want to pray that with this, the enactment of this bill, with your support, Honorable Member,